One day I'm gonna be everything I wanna be. I don't let it get the most of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be everything I'm gonna be. My future right in front of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be free. Then let me be free.
From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges. A host with a fire burning in his soul. With a heart of steel and a spirit unbroken. He rides on two wheels ready to claim his throne. Amidst the chaos and the thunderous roar, insane wheels rise as a force to be reckoned with. Fueled by the power that only metal can bestow. He takes his stand, refusing to submit. Insane wheels hear his battle cry. A metal mayhem that will never die. With engines roaring, he paves his way. A legend in the making, day by day.
Wow. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We got a beautiful start of the morning. Let's get it. I'm going to give a major shout out to you three that sent in a little donation before the show's really even started. We got Mr. Al Patterson coming in with the 5 gifted memberships. Yo, let's freaking go, man. We're making it rain with the memberships this morning. We've got Sterling Wheel as well gifting out 100. Let's fucking go. Yeah. Meaning, when it's red like that, it always reminds me of the 100. And then I don't know why they changed it, the colors around. But thank you very much for the 10 gifted memberships as well, Sterling Wheel. It also not only helps, 10 others in here, but it helps me as well. And then we, of course, got Papa D with the cheap hello, saying for $2 and cheap good morning. Well, hey, man, I very much appreciate that, you guys. Good morning to you guys. As you guys can see, Iran claims victory, and they're claiming victory over the MOU. So let's get that straight. And then sanctions lifted, and then birthright decisions near. Now, that's regards to SCOTUS. The Supreme Court is going to be coming out with the decision, I think, tomorrow on the birthright decision. Okay, so let's go ahead and give you guys the chronological breakdown of what we're going to be discussing this morning. First, we're going to be looking at cruise battle, massive fire at recycling facility in Houston. This was actually a way bigger deal than I originally thought when I first saw it. It says a massive plume of smoke is rising from a fire at a recycling facility in southeast Houston. Now, mind you, this did happen on the 22nd. Okay, so it happened on Monday afternoon. Okay, now, mind you, I didn't do the show yesterday, so we missed that 24-hour period. So that's why I'm putting this in here. The fire was reported near Kellogg Street and Manchester Street and is currently at 3 alarms. I'm not really sure. I'm sure the different alarms show significance of importance. It says, according to the Houston Fire Department Chief Thomas Munoz, they received a call just after 2:45 p.m. at a recycling facility. So yes, it was in the afternoon on Monday. Officials said it appears to be a large pile of tires as well as debris burning at the location. Authorities said about an hour later they upgraded the call to a 211 fire, 211 fire, and additional firefighters and equipment were called out to the scene. According to Munoz, over 100 firefighters are currently on the scene battling the fire. Wow, we got a lot to discuss on that. And then we're going to be getting into the DOJ announces changes in major healthcare fraud operation. I think it looks like they got something like billions of dollars they found. But nonetheless, it says the Justice Department on Tuesday, obviously yesterday, announced charges against more than 450 people across 45 states for alleged healthcare fraud totaling over $6.5 billion. Oh, man, 45 states are involved in this shit, which is not surprising. I would be surprised to hear that there wasn't a state that was involved, to be honest. Anyways, Trump announces arrest for alleged reflecting pool vandalism, as you guys may have heard in social media. If not mainstream media, you guys probably heard a lot about that. There has been some vandalization of the reflective pool. 6 people have been arrested and 7 cited in connection with damage to the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. President Donald Trump said on Truth Social Tuesday, which was yesterday, obviously. All right. Then just as of 13 hours ago, U.S. temporarily lifts oil sanctions against Iran. That's a big deal. That's a big deal right there. We're going to get into why here in a minute. Then we have Iran declares defeat over U.S. amid memorandum of understanding. Yes, that is what they're talking about. It says Iran is declaring a defeat over the U.S. The country's parliament speaker says the Islamabad memorandum of understanding with Washington turned into, quote, declaration of defeat. Meanwhile, President Trump says Iran begged for the MOU. Here's a statement he put on Truth Social. So, well, quote, so I have Iran on the ropes, ready to go down for the fall, willing to give us practically anything. And for the first time in decades, respecting the hell out of the United States and its president, me, and the U.S. Senate decides to have a poorly timed and meaningless War Powers Act vote, telling the number one sponsor of terror in the world that the United States doesn't like what I am doing to them, and I must stop. By so doing, has provided aid and comfort the enemy. 4 Republican losers voted with the Democrats, and Iran asked my people, "What does that all mean?" ? These senators have just made my job more difficult, but I will get it done one way or another because I always get it done. That's what Trump says. Now, listen. The thing is he's got veto over any of that shit. So, yes, Congress can go through a War Powers Act and get it passed through the House and get it passed through Senate and do all that shit. And then guess where it's got to go to get completed? It's got to go onto his fucking desk. So he could be like, yeah, I'm not signing this. That's how easy it's going to be for Trump for him to, I mean, it's kind of, to be honest, it's pointless, but it's going to be mainly some shit where they're just showing that they're doing it kind of thing, meaning Congress, but it's not going to be enforced like people think it's going to. All right. And then we have, let's see here. We just did that one. Deadly Omega heat wave grips Western Europe. Says Western Europe has was in the grip of a deadly record-setting heat wave on Wednesday, which was obviously today, but, hours ago, a few hours ago at least. That has killed dozens of people, closed schools, slowed trains, knocked out electricity, and forced farmers to harvest grain at night. Wow. That's pretty interesting to say the least. And then we have major Supreme Court decision expected Thursday, as you guys know, what I was just talking about with the birthright citizenship. There's also other things that SCOTUS needs to go ahead and rule on. And you got to remember that a lot of their time is actually coming up. So coming up here very soon, there's going to be some different, if not, basically different people in there. We'll see how it goes. And then just an hour ago, deadly Chico library shooter was inspired by Columbine, it says. And now I really don't know what this story is reflecting to yet. We're going to figure this out. It says Bradley Scott Sayer, the 18-year-old who opened fire with a shotgun at a public library in Chico, California, killing 2 and injuring 1, was reportedly influenced by the Columbine High School massacre, according to local and federal officials. Wow. Very interesting to say the least. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and do our call to actions real quick. You guys know what we're going to be discussing this morning, but let's go ahead and do these real quick. Let's do some housekeeping. Make sure you guys hit that like button, double tap that screen if you guys are on the vertical side. I very much appreciate it, and it's free to do so. This is what we do Monday through Friday, and then of course we have Saturday morning for members only. Speaking of members, please consider becoming a member starting only at $2.99 a month, making sure we're not breaking the bank out there with anybody, but check it out. This is what allows us to be on these airwaves as well as have these lights on. So thank you guys for becoming members and staying members. Little side note, follow my Instagram right here at Ball Valve TV, where I post everything behind the scenes of not only my life, but as well as the show, Millennial Food Time, breaking news, all that shit. Politics. It's a great way to get a hold of me one-on-one. And we also have a Discord server for all you legends where we continue the conversation as a community. Go in the video link down below in the description, and there will be invite link for you guys to join up. And last but not least, all super chats, super stickers, gifted memberships, and membership signups are, of course, all going to be presented live and shouted out onto the show. But if you guys like to skip that YouTube 30% brutal cut that they take from your hard-earned cash, we have these platforms that are scrolling around the screen at any time. You can donate to those, and I get 100% of the proceeds. And, of course, we'll read out loud anything that comes our way, just like a normal super chat. So we've got our email up right now. We're always scanning, making sure. All right. Good morning to everybody, man. And we always appreciate you guys. Big shout out to Mr. Al Patterson as well as Sterling Will for the 10 gifted. Al Patterson with the 5. Papa D with the 2. A cheap hello. Always appreciate you guys, man. Let's see. We got Carney Vanguard in the building and Motobomb Virginia as well. You know, we always appreciate. We got the coffee crew over there from Motobomb Virginia, Carney Vanguard, Sick Bastard. All you guys show so much love and support to Insane Wheels, and I'm very blessed by that. Thank you for that. We got Naomi in the building as well as Charles from Down Under. Good morning to you guys, man. Let's see. We got Brother VC in the building. Yes, sir. Virginia Chaos. Good morning to you. We got Mr. Todd J as well. And we got Vanguard Creators as well as TVT. We always appreciate you guys. Thank you for being here with us this morning. We got Rabbit of Chaos. Good morning to you. Thank you for joining with us. Let's see. We're running our way down. We got Mr. Hardwire 1%er. Yes, sir. Good to see you as well. We got Fidel. Good to see you as well. It's been a minute. Paul as well. Thank you for hanging out with us. We're rolling our way down. We got Steve Easy as well. Always appreciate it. Thank you guys. Let's see. We got Charlie Rose as well. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Mr. Agrillipus. Yes, sir. Good morning. Good morning. All right, guys, we're going to enjoy our Whip 'em Out Wednesday. Let's go ahead and pretty much get right into the madness. We do have some madness to get through. Speaking of madness, we're going to start off with this crews battling massive fire at recycling facility in Houston. It started off kind of small, and then it grew into a position where they needed over 100 firefighters to deal with it. So here we go. Let's go ahead and bring it up.
We're following the latest out of Washington, D.C. in ongoing conflict in the Middle East as negotiations wrapped up overnight. Vice President J.D. Vance.
Yeah, but we're following all of that shit. So don't even disregard all the shit that he's going to be talking about with Iran, honestly. Let's get to the fire.
The ground there in the Buffalo Bayou area as some of this debris, as you see the flames, the smoke underway right now as we're learning more information about exactly what's going on in that region. The Houston Chronicle says,
damn, look at all that trash.
Smoke spotted in Southeast Houston. City firefighters respond to a building fire, saying this is a recycling facility. They were reported around 2:45. It appears to be a large pile of tires as well as debris burning at that location. Let's take you as they are talking, our Fox 26 team, about this.
You know, when you have rubber burning, such as tires and shit like that, man, I'm telling you, that is the worst. I mean, talk about environmental problems, you know, like burning plastics, rubbers like that, man. It's just, when it burns, it sucks.
This developing story, a live picture one more time at what we're monitoring, just black smoke going directly into the air. You can see at least 2 or 3 fire engines on the ground for this. We did see a vantage point from the ground as well, as it's near, at least very close to some houses, some residential area. You can see the wind blowing, but this is concerning for those residents, both in how close it is, but just what is being sent into the air around them. And those are likely concerned for the respiratory nature of it. So a massive fire underway at a recycling facility in Houston, Texas. They're in the Buffalo Bayou area.
When you see black smoke, man, I'm telling you, that's not the greatest of signs.
As our Fox 26 team has been on the air for quite some time about this. Authorities said about an hour later, after 2:45, so around 4 o'clock, they upgraded the call to a 211 fire. Additional firefighters and equipment were called to the scene. So I'm not exactly sure what that is in the air, but our Fox
I didn't know what
team also
that was too small. That was too small for it to be like a plane.
Scoping out what they're looking at. The wind somewhat swirling in this area, moving downdraft. You'd hate to be downwind from this recycling facility.
Oh, hell
right
no.
Now.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be anywhere close to it. I mean, because, downwind would suck right now. But trust me, while this shit burns, the wind's going to change directions multiple times.
100 firefighters currently on the scene right now, battling the fire. Fire officials also working with Texas Commission.
What's up, Tootie Bug? Welcome in, by the way. Hopefully you're enjoying your Whip 'em Out Wednesday. I definitely know the hell we are.
On environmental quality and hazmat to determine if there are any air quality concerns. At the moment, officials say there's no environmental concerns at this point. No shelter in place has been given, but that might change depending on the wind direction and how quickly this fire, if it does, tries.
Hell yeah, this shit stinks. You know, if you got rubber, plastics, all that shit burning, it's just the worst.
Spread. Officials said they're actively fighting the fire. No currently plans to let the fire just burnt out. No evacuations, injuries. Officials stated there is a neighborhood in the area.
Got a little Devo in the chat.
But there is no current danger to the homes in the area. They're being monitored by the department. Let's take you back out to our Fox 26 team, and they're developing coverage of this story.
Past couple of hours, a large tire fire is burning at a recycling facility. Now, we know flames erupted around 3 at Kellogg near Manchester, and we do have team coverage for you, beginning with Karis Belger, who is live for us at the scene. What can you tell us?
Yeah, they just had another fire truck drive down the street not too long ago in a cooling
Look
bus.
at that shit
And in case
behind her.
anybody gets a little too hot out here, just to give you an idea of what they're dealing with. It's not just the heat from the sun; it's the heat from the.
Yeah, I kept it sober last night on purpose after missing Tuesday's show. I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna set myself up for failure.
And it's
you know what I mean?
active. Firefighters have been out here for at least 2 hours, and there are some people as well who are working in the area who haven't been able to get to their cars. That's how expansive they have been in terms of blocking off the street to make sure people are safe. And if you look behind me, you can see where that plume is. So it has just settled a little bit. It was getting a little more lively.
And now they said that it took up to 100 firemen to get this somewhat controlled here. I'm not sure of the actual how it's being treated right this second. I'm sure that they've got it out 100% containment, I'm sure, at this point, because we haven't seen any update on this since this happened. So, I mean, trust me, anytime that we bring up a story, we don't just bring up a story just for the fuck of it. We bring it up and then we will follow the story as best as we possibly can. All right. Anyways, real quick, we got Mr. Jack Talcott in the building. Always got to give a special shout out to my man. Hopefully you're enjoying your morning as well. I definitely know that we are. Let's get into the DOJ. DOJ announces charges in major healthcare fraud operation. Quickly, it says the Justice Department on Tuesday, which is obviously yesterday, announced charges against more than 450 people across 45 fucking states, yo, for alleged healthcare fraud totaling over $6.5 billion. All right, let's pretty much get right into this. Let's go ahead and bring this up, and we'll light up our little counterclockwise tobacco at the same time. And we're not going to play this whole thing. This is a whole long, 47-minute long fucking ordeal. We're not going to listen to that. We're just going to listen to the front monologue. Usually it's pretty short, and then they take a lot of questions, and that's what usually takes forever. But let's get the top monologue here.
All right, so we did want to share this with you, as it does look like this update from DOJ officials are talking about healthcare fraud. Let's listen in.
Today, we are here to announce the results of the 2026 National Healthcare Fraud Takedown. This announcement marks the greatest combined federal and state effort in combating healthcare fraud in history. Thanks to the leadership of President Trump and the Vice President and all those folks standing behind me and next to me, we are more united than ever before. This team is working tirelessly to take down fraudsters who steal from taxpayer-funded programs and prey on vulnerable Americans. When we talk about the team that's working on these cases, I want to give some context around that. There are 9 healthcare fraud strike forces that have been part of this effort, 57 U.S. attorneys' offices, 41 state attorney general's offices.
Man, they really had a fucking sting on these motherfuckers.
Not red states, not blue states, but both working together with the federal government. Multiple law enforcement agencies, including inspector generals, some of the agencies that are here with me on this stage. That's what we talk about when we say this is an all-government approach to combating fraud. It's not just the Department of Justice. It's not just HHS. It's all government, including working with our state and local partners.
At this point, I can't imagine, it being across 45 different states. I can only imagine the amount of agencies that were involved in this.
Today, we are announcing federal charges, all of which were charged or sealed at some point over the past 2 weeks, the past 14 days, coordinated nationwide action. Since June 8th, we've charged 455 defendants across 56, like I said a minute ago, U.S. attorneys' offices, and 45 U.S. states and territories. As alleged in the various indictments, these individuals participated in healthcare fraud schemes involving over $6.5 billion in false claims submitted to Medicare, Medicaid, and other healthcare programs. The team around me will get into more specifics.
Jack, that's very true. I think that this previous year was their 8th year in a row that failed their audit. Yeah, absolutely.
But here are a few points that stand out. In one indictment, we're bringing charges against a corporate executive in Arizona in connection to over a $1 billion fraud involving unnecessary wound grafts. This alleged scheme costs Medicare over $1 million per patient. In total, our indictment charges 11 defendants for over $2 billion in fraudulent claims in connection to alleged wound care schemes. The indictment also alleges that these individuals then used the taxpayer money to bankroll multi-million-dollar homes, luxury vehicles like a $135,000 Maserati, jewelry like an
Sounds about right. Sounds about right. Yeah, definitely sounds about right.
$865,000 Bulgari necklace, and to top it all off, to fund the construction of a 4.6.
It's so funny when people get money, what they do with it. Like what average people will do when they get a lot of money. There's a reason why that people that really have true wealth, you wouldn't really super even know it. You know, the truth is they're not buying, you know, fucking fancy ass chains. They're not buying fucking, you know, multi-billion-dollar fucking operations or mega million-dollar fucking houses and shit like that. They're not doing that. A lot of times they're investing their money back into business or whatever the case is. And that's usually where people that have serious money are going to be putting it. They're not going to be buying stupid ass $200,000 fucking chains and you know, $250,000 fucking Suburbans or whatever the case is. You know what I mean?
$1 million hotel
Just saying.
at a beach resort in the Philippines. We're taking back the money, the luxury cars, the jewelry, and these alleged fraudsters will face justice. The coordinated actions of the past 2 weeks have resulted in over $182 million in cash and other assets seized, making clear our healthcare fraud enforcement efforts generate a significant return on investment for our taxpayers. In terms of Medicaid fraud, we're able to announce today the creation of the West Coast Strike Force and the deployment of additional prosecutors, allowing us to bring charges against a record-setting 295 defendants. Our indictments allege over $518 million in Medicaid fraud between these individual defendants.
The amount of fraud that is going on that has been caught, you know what I mean? Just alone of what's been caught. It's unreal, actually.
You're going to hear from Director Patel in a moment, but apprehending alleged fraudsters remains a top priority of the Department of Justice and the FBI and our other law enforcement partners, including the DEA, who's here as well. At last year's takedown, a year ago, we charged multiple individuals for allegedly running a $10.6 billion medical equipment scheme using stolen identities to make false Medicare claims. Today, I can announce that earlier this month, we apprehended 2 of those defendants extradited from Estonia. Separately, over the weekend, we conducted the foreign transfer to custody of a defendant who was allegedly connected to another $3.7 billion in intended loss.
God damn.
I want to thank our tireless federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies who work hard every day and participated in these whole-of-government operations. This is just the beginning. Fraudsters can no longer rip off American taxpayers.
Yeah,
if you seek to harm or cheat Americans.
And they continue to do it. Now, this is just what you've caught. Imagine what is happening on the shit that you haven't caught.
We will find you, seize any assets, and prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. Thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over now to Secretary Kennedy. Thank you.
No need to do that. No, like legitimately, we already know what is happening there. We don't need to get any further than that. We got the facts and the numbers, and now we're going to move on because we got a lot to discuss as per usual. We always do. Trump announces arrest for alleged reflecting pool vandalism. So this happened yesterday. It says 6 people have been arrested and 7 cited in connection with damage to the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. President Donald Trump said on Truth Social Tuesday, which was yesterday, obviously. All right, quickly, let's go ahead and do the money part real quick. We got Sterling and Mr. Al Patterson and Papa D. They're holding up the chat right now, but you guys can't put all the burden on them.
All right, just get the money part done.
Give me money. Money me. Money now. Me a money needing a lot now.
Now that is actual factuals, ladies and gentlemen, by the way. And Steve Easy says, fraud, damn, I thought they were releasing that Epstein's list. Yeah, no kidding, bro. We got Texas Gidget in the house, by the way. Good morning to you, by the way. All right, let's go ahead and bring this story up, and we'll quickly get into it regarding this reflecting pool.
We also
it's a very quick update, by the way.
Another update keeping us in Washington, D.C., and that is this. This is from the White House right here, stating that 6 arrests have been made for vandalizing.
Oh, and by the way, yes, Caroline Leavitt is back on duty as of yesterday. She is back on the clock. So you'll see her pretty little face on TV again.
Our reflecting pool. President Trump will ensure those deranged individuals are held accountable. So this is from Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt right there. And in fact, President Trump himself taking to social media, announcing those arrests for the vandalism. Saying,
oh, wow. I didn't even see this, tweet or, well, this is on Truth Social. So there you go.
6 people have been arrested and 7 people have been cited for the damage they did to our country's now beautiful reflecting pool. The 350-foot gash made by a very sharp knife or razors is actually numerous slashes over a very long 350.
How does that work? Like slashing the bottom of it or something like that? And just, I mean, that's fucked up. Why would anybody even do that?
Foot length. It was purposely and criminally done, and somebody had to work very hard, probably in the dark of night, to create such a condition.
So they got 6 people arrested right now, but 7 people were cited, so that means they're missing 1, right?
Likewise, the small area at the bottom of the pool was cut and powerfully lifted off.
Like, even if you disagree with it, right? I mean, you don't just go, like, if my neighbor does something and he spends money and I disagree with it, that doesn't mean that I get to go over onto his shit and start destroying it, right? It's kind of the same thing, right? Like, normal people don't act this way.
Surface.
And we shouldn't normalize that either.
Leaving very jagged, uneven edges. The large areas of grass are being replaced. In any event,
yeah, the liner.
Prior to fixing those areas, the reflecting pool is as beautiful as it can be. We will drain some of the water either immediately before or after the 4th of July to do permanent repair. Signed,
well, that
Donald
sucks.
J. Trump.
Yeah, that truly does suck. Let's see if we do get some images. I want to see where the damages is.
Some recent video of the reflecting pool, and you can see that staff members right there
taking care of it,
using equipment to treat the pool water. That is because there has been an algae bloom right there.
Well, yeah, no kidding. And when you have not as deep of water, algae will, of course, build quickly because, well, you got a background that is darker and it's going to take in heat quicker. And when you have heat with very, very small, shallow amount of water, that water naturally will warm up way quicker. And when that happens, I mean, you definitely risk algae, right?
And so that's just one of the issues. You can also see some of the bottom of it.
What's up, Ashton? Good morning to you, by the way. Hopefully you're enjoying your Whip 'em Out Wednesday. Definitely know that we are. By the way, I haven't asked you guys to do it yet, but we've got 138 people in between both the live streams. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Double tap that screen if you're on the vertical side. I very much appreciate it. You don't have to like all the craziness that's happening around the world, but you guys can like it for me and what we do here on Insane Wheels. So thank you for that. All right, here we go.
Was vandalized. So this is just that recent video as we continue to follow all of these developments of what has been happening to the reflecting pool in Washington, D.C. President Trump really at the head of just trying to refurbish this reflecting pool. All right, we are going to step away for another break.
Nope, that's enough for us. We just wanted to see that real quick. All right, let's go ahead and move in to U.S. temporarily lifts oil sanctions against Iran. Now, that's a big deal. That's a big deal right there. Let's go ahead and bring this up, and we'll quickly get into what this all means. Here we go.
One of the most pressing issues right now here in 2026 continues to be those negotiations with Iran as diplomatic efforts to permanently end the war in the Middle East. They are in full swing, but
my man VC always looking out for me. I appreciate it.
Plenty of questions remain about what's actually been agreed to. Fox News correspondent Rebecca Castor has more from Washington, D.C.
From Pakistan to the United Arab Emirates, top Iranian and U.S. officials are continuing talks with mediators, hoping to reach a final lasting peace deal for the region.
I think good groundwork was laid over the last 72 hours, but a lot of work remains to be done, and we want to hear from our partners. We want to
actually the major aspect of how much work needs to be done is yet to come. Okay, we're in the very baby stages. If we were to actually get some sort of a deal at the very end of this 60 days, which is not going to be, we're not going to see a deal at the end of 60 days. Okay. I'm just going to tell you the truth. We're not going to get that unless we make some major concessions. We may even pay them very handsomely, not the $300 billion that the media tried to, spin and say, oh, well, that's, the United States going to give them 300. No, we already, discussed that and debunked all that on Friday. But nonetheless, we're going to, we're going to get to the end of the 60 days. And if we're somewhat close, we'll extend it a little bit until we get negotiations. But the thing is Iran's not going to concede on this. Okay. They're not going to concede on nuclear weapons. Okay. They're not going to concede on this right now. So we're going to end up back in square one again. And exactly what Trump said, we're going to put bombs right on their head. That's literally what he said. And that's what's going to end up happening here, sadly. So the hard work of this whole thing has yet to even began. Marco Rubio over here making it seem like the hard work. Yeah, this has been hard work. Yeah, well, truly, this is the easy work compared to what you're about to get yourself into.
Make sure that their views are taken into account.
Following the first round of talks in Switzerland, oil traffic is ramping up in the Strait of Hormuz. But there's growing confusion over another key part of the negotiations. Tehran is denying it agreed to international nuclear inspections, directly contradicting the White House. President Trump insists it's part of the deal.
They're wrong. They know they're wrong. They told us inside, and we have it down 100% inspections. And if they were right, I'd cancel the meetings right now.
On Capitol Hill, lawmakers are questioning both Iran's commitments and the administration's plan to unfreeze Iranian assets for food purchases. Democrats want a full briefing on...
And according to Trump, what he was talking about when we are going to unfreeze these Iranian assets, the $24 billion, we were throwing around two different numbers, and the other number was the $24 billion. $24 billion is the Iranian money that is their money that was frozen. Now, Trump is saying we're going to unfreeze that, but you can only buy American product from it, like American soybeans, American, blah, 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 those kind of things. So I'm not really sure how that's implemented or how that works, but that is what Trump said, I think, yesterday.
And what's been agreed to
or the day
so
before.
far.
I
think it was
continue
yesterday.
to call on Trump, Secretary Rubio, and the rest of the leadership team to brief the full
What's up, Desert Outlaw, by the way? Good morning.
Senate without delay. It's outrageous. None of us have gotten a briefing yet. Why don't they want to give us a briefing? Are they embarrassed? Is it so vague that they told Iran one thing and we'll have to tell the world another?
While there are currently no plans for White House officials to brief
No one cares about you, Schumer. I'm just going to be honest.
lawmakers, President Trump is set to meet with defense contractors Wednesday to discuss ramping up weapons production. In Washington, Rebecca Castor, Fox News.
Thank you so much for that, Rebecca. Plenty of questions also about sanctions for the first time in over 40 years.
Now, this is the big thing right here.
The U.S. issuing sanction relief for Iranian oil as the U.S. Treasury on Monday issued a wide-ranging 60-day exemption, allowing Iran to produce and sell crude oil, petrochemical, petroleum products in U.S. dollars through mid-August, as this General X license, as it called. Vessels and entities previously subject to U.S. sanctions are also cleared for transactions. So plenty of questions around what this does and the funding for Iran with this. You can see from the New York Post talking about this easy mullah as the U.S. waives Iranian oil sanctions for 2 months in a payday worth up to $10 billion. Let's be joined right now here with the oil price information services, Denton Chinquingrana.
So they're lifting those sanctions for that 60 days. That's the temporary lift. And that is a major, I would say, on the United States standpoint, objectively, that is a concession in a certain way. Absolutely.
And thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. How significant is this that Iran is able
huge.
to sell oil in this way?
It's the first time in 40 years.
Right.
Well, first of all, the New York Post just knocks it out of the park every time with those headlines and those front page and back pages. I love it. But anyway, yeah,
you're good, Naomi.
The sanctions relief has been, kind of a big surprise here when it was announced by the Treasury Department on Monday. Gives them a 60-day license to sell crude into the open market. So again, for a global market that is low on supply right now, it's probably welcome. Now, granted, I don't think there's going to be many U.S. companies looking to buy Iranian crude oil. This is crude oil that's going to be mostly destined for Asian locations.
Right.
And just give me some historical context to this. Prior to the sanctions, prior to the sanction relief, I should say, how was Iran exporting and selling oil, if at all?
Yeah, so they were able to move crude oil.
Yeah, they were, and the way that they were doing it was, off the main market. It's very simple. It's like when shit is not on the market, you can always go on the black market and you can have handshake deals and shit where money's exchanged. Personally, to them instead of like to this third party or some bullshit. You know what I mean?
Usually to countries like China.
Meaning the
China would
market.
be a willing buyer because they don't recognize Western sanctions. Another thing that they would do is turn off transponders, spoof and make ships appear where they aren't. But when you turn off the transponder, it disappears, and then all of a sudden it pops up again in someplace else. So
what he's talking about is AIS, which is, I'm glad that he just brought up right here. The actual marine traffic. Now, the way that you see these guys is in basically a satellite. That's what AIS is, imagery, where it shows exactly where you are location wise. Now, on the ships and vessels themselves, they have the ability to turn these things off. It's very easy to turn off, and then it shows last seen at this location. So sometimes you'll see on these AIS, you'll see a ship on there from 14 hours ago, and it says last seen 14 hours ago here. And then, but they're not actually there right now at that second. You know, they turn off their transponder, and then they ended up going somewhere else and haven't turned it back on yet.
But most of the traffic that's moving through the strait right now, it does
Mr.
seem to
13, good morning to you, by the way. Good morning.
picking up a little bit. Still not as much as pre-war levels, but again, really after what we saw in kind of March, April, and May, any sort of traffic increases are going to be welcome for the global market, and that's what's been pulling oil prices down.
What percentage does Iran contribute to that global market of crude oil? How significant could that be?
It's actually quite big. Out of that 20% that moves through there, I think that they themselves are like responsible for 10% or more.
Well, right now they're not a significant producer. Obviously, probably in the 2 to 3 million barrel a day area. It's not big compared to, say, Saudi Arabia, the United States, Russia.
Right, of course, and that's why I was saying for the region, not what is like going through there, whether that be American oil. There's American oil that goes through that area as well. Not American oil. I guess it is. It's being moved through the strait into down below where you go through Yemen, and that's where another one of those straits are that leads up to Europe and to the western side of the world as well.
Some of the larger oil producers around the world. However, with sanctions relief, with investment in their oil fields, they could become a more significant producer on the world stage. And if a permanent peace deal comes along, then they will probably have an opportunity to be participants in the global market.
And
that's speculation. As of right now, this temporary relief on the sanction, this whole thing, the lift of the sanctions here, is only for 60 days. Okay. It has an end date. It'd be different if it didn't have an end date, where that's a slippery slope. Like, oh, well, now they could partake in that for X, Y, and Z amount of time. No, we know that it's going to end in 60 days.
Talk about it, Denton, that the United States not reliant on what's coming out.
Especially if they don't come to a deal, which they're not going to come to a deal.
Of the Strait of Hormuz, it's a larger global world economy, but this also potentially opens up the United States to import Iranian oil, which is somewhat hard to fathom. Will the United States do that?
And vice versa. It could also allow them to buy our shit and move it into their shit, but they're not going to do that, of course. I mean, and it's not going to happen the other way either.
Just yet. You never say never, because never's a long time. So
yeah, but Andy is specifically talking about that theoretically, if these sanctions are lifted, could that happen? And the answer is yes. Yes, it could happen. But he's going to be right in saying, I don't think that's going to happen. He's also right in that too.
But if they did, this is a kind of high quality crude oil that produces a lot of what is referred to as the middle of the barrel. So think diesel, think jet fuel.
Yep.
Some things that are now jet fuel, not so much anymore, because U.S. refiners really ramped up production of jet fuel. But for the last 4 or 5 years, the U.S. has been pretty tight on diesel. So, and really most of the world has been tight on diesel. That's what economies.
I think truly, Steve Easy he's had a hard on for Iran for a long time, meaning Trump. And I think that he got some wrong intelligence, where people were because Trump wanted to do something, and instead of people going, hey, that's actually maybe we shouldn't be doing, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure they wanted to cater to him too and be like, oh yeah, we can, let's do this. It's going to go X, Y, and Z or whatever the case is. I think that it's a mixture of his own personal feelings for I mean, he's been talking about Iran for the last 40 fucking years. Okay. I mean, you can find him at, age 30 on stage talking about Iran and shit. So I definitely think that, yes, he has this personal thing against them. On top of it, he's the most powerful man in the world. So of course people are going to cater to what he kind of wants to do and what he wants to lean on, which I disagree with. I think that you always need somebody that is going to keep you in line. Okay. You know what I mean? That's what doesn't matter if you're the most powerful man in the world. It doesn't matter. I think that you need opposition, opposing views, and you need somebody to say, hey, look, I don't think that's the smartest idea.
Run on. So having Iranian crude and really those Middle Eastern crudes that were kind of missing from the global market for the last couple of months, they're distillate rich, and it's going to be welcome for refiners around the world.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I want to get into that a little bit because it's not only about their ability to sell it, but also their ability to not necessarily sell it at a discount. How could their ability to sell oil at a price also change how much money they bring in? How much of a factor is that? Is that bigger than just their ability to sell it at all?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. If you're selling at world prices versus, hey, my customer base is very, very limited to one.
Right, exactly. To one type of buyer, because everyone's got their own kind of, I mean, yes, there is the standard price that you can buy oil at, but a lot of times these countries have these backdoor deals, like, hey, let me borrow 6 million barrels of oil. I'll do this and this for you, or whatever the case is. Or, hey, we'll pay you in yen, and we'll give you even a better price, or whatever the case is. There's all sorts of weird shit that can happen.
Maybe two countries.
Oil is
now
very
I don't
complex.
Have to discount. I could put it out on the world stage, and be comparable to some of the other grades that are trading from other Middle Eastern countries.
Is it also a banking portion of this, Denton, because they're able to sell it the U.S. dollar, doesn't have to have transaction fees as well? Is that a component?
I think that's
yes, and Andy's right on that as well to point that out, because it can be bought with the U.S. dollar now, essentially, and Iran's not going to get punished for doing that.
Part of it as well. Maybe probably one that's not talked about as much, but kind of access to capital and things like that are potentially going to go a long way to help the economy really come get up off the ground as it has been in Iran, because they've been choked off for quite a while, despite the fact that they do border 9 different countries. So there is some trade there. So
that's also a very interesting fact. I actually never really thought about it, how many countries Iran borders, and he just said it, 9 countries, which is the region over there, man, is just so different and hostile, very hostile against one another. All those different countries. I mean, fuck, man.
Don't think it's all straight up Hormuz or nothing. But
thank God we live in the United States, kind of thing.
Again, having that straight access and access to the global markets could help them in the long run.
Can we talk about timeline? Because we know this is just...
No need for that. We already know the timeline. 60 days. All right. Let's go ahead and get into Iran declares defeat over U.S. amid memorandum of understanding. Now, this is why I came up with today's thumbnail. Every thumbnail I do here, I mean, it's correlated to what we're speaking about each and every single day, obviously. But, we put a lot of hard work into those things. So let us know what you think about it. All right. Also, let's get into this and figure out why Iran is declaring defeat over the U.S. And it comes out right after the sanctions were lifted. So there's a reason for that. And I can guarantee you not only the MOU is favorable for Iran, but then, of course, now the sanctions actually being lifted, yeah, you're going to see Iran over there smacking their mouth very quickly. Smacking their gums. Here we go.
Here on the right-hand side of your screen, you are taking a live look over the Strait of Hormuz coming in from marine traffic as we get to the latest on the U.S.-Iran conflict. Take a look right here at this post from Iran International English. Now, Iran's parliament speaker claiming today that the U.S. lost the war, saying the outcome demonstrates just that. He took part in those negotiations this weekend in Switzerland, with the U.S. side led, of course, by Vice President J.D. Vance. And this morning, Iran International English reporting that the speaker said the memorandum of understanding between Iran and the U.S. turned into a, quote, declaration of U.S. defeat. President Trump...
Damn. Declaration of U.S. defeat. Wow. Oh my God, these motherfuckers.
Between Iran and the U.S. turned into a, quote, declaration of U.S. defeat. President Trump maintaining that is clearly not the case, and he also responded to the Senate passing the War Powers resolution aimed at halting the U.S. military operations in Iran. He took to Truth Social overnight with a fairly lengthy post saying, quote, so I have Iran on the ropes, ready to go down for the fall, willing to give us practically anything. And for the first time in decades,
which they don't have that rhetoric and they don't have those actions of give us practically anything.
respecting the hell out of the United States and its president, and the U.S. Senate decides to have a
But I do truly wish it was that way, but I just don't see it on the ground that way.
timed and meaningless War Powers Act vote, telling the #1 sponsor of terror in the world that the United States doesn't like what I am doing to them, and I must stop. And by so
yeah, they are temporarily relieved. They were lifted. We literally just showed all of, I mean, what are you talking about? Of course, they were just lifted. Go look it up yourself.
doing has provided aid
60
and comfort
days,
to the enemy.
dumbass.
4 Republican losers voted with the Democrats, and Iran asked my people, quote, what does that all mean? These senators have just made my job more difficult, but I will get it done one way or the other because I always get it done.
Steve Posey, my man, good morning.
President DJT. All right, so as always, a lot to discuss here. Do want to bring in Dr. Ali Baez, the Iran project director at the...
Now, when he was talking about at the end here about the 4 Republicans that voted with the Democrats regarding the War Powers Act. Now, here's the thing. Again, I already said this at the top of the hour here, but them passing something regards to trying to stop Trump's war is not going to work. Let me go ahead and tell you exactly why. When something like this, a War Powers Act goes through, let's say it goes through and passes through the House. Cool, passes. Boom. It goes into the Senate. Now it goes into the Senate. Let's say it passes. Boom. Now where does it go? It goes to the president's desk for signature. Now, Trump can look at it and go, I'm not signing this. And then it doesn't go into law. So, I mean, it's like, what the fuck, you guys? You guys are just doing it just to show your opinion, I guess. And I understand that, but it's not actually going to move the needle. See, Congress sucks too.
The National Crisis Group as we break down all of the latest details. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Good morning, Josh. Great to be with you.
Good morning. Well, first off, I want to ask you about some of those remarks there made by Iran's parliamentary speaker. Of course, he's not going to say that Iran has lost the war. Both sides, of course, saying that they won in their own way. What do you make of those remarks from Iran's parliament speaker there?
Well, you're absolutely right. It is not a surprise at all.
And let me go ahead and say why it's not a surprise, because both sides of the equation during war, warfare is not just the actual military and economic warfare and shit like that. It also has a lot to do with psychological warfare. Okay. We do it all the time, just like they're going to do it, just like any other country does it. They have their own propaganda machine and their own narratives on things, okay? So both sides you'll see on a lot of times, you'll have ceasefires on both sides or an ending of a war, and both sides are saying they won. Happens all the time, actually. Same thing with the rhetoric of like MOUs or ceasefires or any of these things. Each side is going to claim that they basically claim a victory. This is the best for us kind of thing. But meanwhile, objectively, is it the best for the United States? Is it objectively? There's a difference between the rhetoric and what is actually objectively a positive for either side of the equation, right?
In fact, the narrative of victory on both sides, by definition, is going to be incompatible because they have very different domestic political requirements. So whatever the Iranians say to their own audience at home is going to backfire in Washington and vice versa. This is just inevitable. I was around in 2015 when we had a nuclear deal with the Iranians. It was the exact same thing. So this is not a surprise at all.
And as we look, of course, at the remarks from President Trump, essentially, as we see all of this unfold, there was the passage of that War Powers Act.
Now, real quick, this came out today. I think this came out about 3 hours ago, just for your guys' knowledge of how long this was.
That happened yesterday in the Senate. That's really not going to have an impact on the war itself. But
I'm sorry. No. This is the one that came out at 3 in the morning. So this is about 6-7 hours.
I wanted to ask you is, do you see any sort of end to this conflict overall? Because we have the memorandum of understanding. We have the potential for an official deal taking place over the next under 60 days at this point. Do you see an end to this conflict anytime soon?
So on the war powers...
Well, you know, it's crazy. Even back then, Charles Darwin, they were threatening the Strait of being closed for the global market. And so that's primarily why no one really fucked with Iran in that aspect, because they knew on a geographical front that they did have kind of an advantage of being right there. That's their coastline. They can easily threaten it and quote unquote shut it down. So that's been a threat since day one, and no one really wanted to fuck around with that and see it, to be honest.
Resolution Act, the timing of it is a little puzzling, because you could say that as long as we had the blockade, the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports in place.
Of their ports, correct. Yeah, it was a blockade on top of their ports, yes.
That was an act of war, and therefore you could say one way or another, maybe the conflict was continuing.
Well, their blocking of an international waterway and shutting it down is also an act of war.
The Operation Epic Fury was over, but because the blockade was in place, the conflict was ongoing. But now that we have also removed the blockade, there is no active hot war at this moment, and therefore the resolution seems to be a little out of place. That's point number one. To answer your question, I think the war is over. I have a hard time imagining that we would go back into full-fledged hostilities.
I don't know why this guy has that kind of ideology. Everything points to us going back into a fight, unless we make some major concessions.
Because I think both sides have realized that they cannot deliver the knockout blow to the other at an acceptable cost. If opening the Strait of Hormuz through use of military force was really, in terms of cost benefit, doable, the president would have done it already. If seizing the stockpile of highly enriched uranium in Iran was doable, the president would have done it already.
That's true. That is true on that aspect.
Iranians, they are in a very tight economic spot. Their economy.
Look at their one real Iranian real compared, or $1 the exchange rate. It's something ridiculous at this point. It's like 14,000 of their reals to $1. Something ridiculous.
Even before this conflict, now they're even struggling more, and that's why they need the economic reprieve that has come as part of this understanding. I really believe that.
There's definitely not peace right now.
Really has an interest.
It's just a break, a tiny ceasefire for 60 days until this shit pops off again. Let's call a spade a spade.
And going back to war. Now, this is, of course, as long as diplomacy is ongoing and has a positive momentum. If diplomacy fails, then there's, of course, the risk at some point, maybe towards the end of this year or early next year, that we might end up in another round of competition. But I don't see it in the immediate future.
I do see it in the immediate, in 60 days. That kind of immediate is what I see. I definitely see us getting into more of a conflict, because I just don't see Trump conceding that much to where we're going to give all that up like that. So anyways, let's go ahead and move on. Let's get into this deadly Omega heat wave grips Western Europe. We're only going to quickly get into this very quickly. First, I think everybody needs to embrace their fuck ups. So let's just get that out of the way now.
Beat yourself up over past mistakes. You are going to fuck up again in the future, quite possibly in a most spectacular fashion. Why worry about yesterday's fuck ups when you have tomorrow's fuck ups to look forward to? You are a fuck up, and fucking up is part of your growth process. Embrace the process.
We have embraced the process this morning. All right, here we go. Let's go ahead and bring up this this heat wave that's fucking up Europe right now. This coming out this morning.
Right now, though, I do want to get to some of the other big stories that we are covering, as we have the latest on this deadly heat wave that's taking over Europe. And you can see some of the temperatures there on this live map that's coming in from the Associated Press. France actually recorded its hottest day ever Tuesday, with temperatures recorded at 29.8 degrees Celsius. Now, we did the conversion, of course. That's about 85.6 degrees Fahrenheit. We know that the Eiffel Tower and the Louvre Museum restricted visiting hours, and school and transportation schedules were disrupted in several different countries. Weather agencies in the UK, as well as Spain there, were among those to issue a red alert warning people about all of this. Now, as we take this live look over at Belgium, folks are...
Looked like France was getting... totally fucked.
We're trying to get their relief there. You can see just some of the water in front of you, folks kind of crowding into the beach.
No. Well, I got a question.
Why are you gay? You are gay.
He said it. He said it. There we go.
France recording at least 40 deaths from drowning over the last week as people seek relief in rivers and other bodies of water. And we're told that many of the drownings involving young people. This all made worse by the fact, of course, that many of those countries do not have widespread air conditioning.
Yeah, exactly what Steve Easy said, because what was just stated there, which is true. A lot of those countries actually don't have air conditioning. And Steve Easy says they need to invest in a few ACs. I agree with that statement, by the way.
To discuss here, so
you got to be ready for anything to happen. Come on, man.
I do want to bring in an expert to help us break it down. We have Oscar Bruce, lecturer in urban climatology and health at University College London. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Thank you, Josh. Pleasure for me.
And he's got terrible audio. I'm not even willing to listen to that. But I will see the map here: Germany, Paris, France over there, Italy, Belgium. Let's see. No. Belgrade. I don't know why I said Belgium. Let's see here. London. It's not so bad up into Dublin and all that shit. But yeah, it looks like they are going to get a little bit of they are in the middle of a heat wave. And like I just said, a lot of these countries don't even have air conditioning because it is fairly nice, usually decent enough for them to not even need it. They'll just sweat it out a few days of the year or whatever the case is. All right. That's all we pretty much got on that. We're not going to just focus on that because there's no need. 55 minutes into our show anyways. We still got a few things to get through. Major Supreme Court decisions expected Thursday. Now, this is into regards of actually quite a few things. But one of the major ones that is being talked about right now is birthright citizenship. So that decision is supposed to be made tomorrow by the Supreme Court, as well as there's a few other things that they're trying to rule on before the end of their term, essentially. So anyways, we're about to get into this. Let me go ahead and bring this up. Also, let's go ahead and bring out a sandwich for the homies.
Man, motherfuckers talk all the shit they want. But you see me, I'm sitting up here snacking on this big ass sandwich, not getting a fuck. Kiss my dick, motherfucker.
Shit. All right, now we're ready to rock and roll. Here we go. Let's see what's going on with SCOTUS.
And you're watching live now from Fox. Welcome in. My name is Christy Matino. All eyes have been on the Supreme Court this week as they're entering their final days of their term, and several of the most closely watched cases of the year are still awaiting decisions. Among the unresolved cases are disputes involving President Trump's executive actions, immigration policy, federal agency independence, and the limits of presidential power. The rulings could have major implications not only for key parts of the president's agenda, but also for how much authority future presidents can exercise over the federal government. Still pending are cases involving birthright citizenship, temporary protected status for certain migrants, and whether president can remove leaders of independent agencies like the Federal Reserve and Federal Trade Commission. Now, as the court races to finish its work before the summer recess,
that's interesting. I didn't know that that's one of the things that they're about to rule on. Listen to what she just said right there.
Birthright citizenship, temporary protected status for certain migrants, and whether president can remove leaders of independent agencies like the Federal Reserve and Federal Trade Commission.
Interesting. I didn't know they were going to rule on that shit like Federal Reserve and stuff like that. If he can basically fire and hire people on his discretion.
Now, as the court races to finish its work before the summer recess, these decisions could reshape the balance of power between the White House, Congress, and the courts for years to come. Joining us now is a friend of the show, attorney Jeremy Rosenthal, to break down the biggest cases still on the docket and what those rulings could mean. Good morning to you, Jeremy. As always, we appreciate you for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
So let's just talk about
I always have a question for this guy.
Why are you gay? You are gay.
Now, something that I observe about this guy is every single time he comes onto the show, he always has a different wild pair of glasses. Sometimes they're these things. Sometimes they're big, bulky red glasses and shit. Like, he is an oddball.
Why the Supreme Court typically waits until the very last minute here to release these big decisions. We've been watching here. We were waiting yesterday. We had the SCOTUS blog up.
Yeah, and I was thinking that the ruling on birthright citizenship was actually going to happen yesterday. And I was like, okay, well, I guess it's not happening yesterday, so it's probably going to happen today. And then they're going, no, it's going to actually happen on Thursday.
Or are they waiting?
Look, so a lot of these cases take a long time to resolve and develop. They're only issuing several thousand pages of legal opinions and doctrine collectively. It's not just the big, sexy cases that we tend to see. It's everything. There's a lot of smaller opinions that they do.
Oh, I'm sure.
And by smaller, I mean they just don't have the headlines.
Yeah, I was just about to say smaller by headline.
Those can sometimes be hundreds of pages. They're like anybody else. I think all the IRS employees are pretty happy, and all the accountants in the world.
What's up, Mr. Mister? By the way, good morning to you, kind sir. Hopefully you're enjoying your Whip 'em Out Wednesday.
We're pretty happy on April 16th every year. This is just the term that they tend to do this. You hear a lot about temporary emergency relief a lot of times when parties will go up to the Supreme Court and they'll want something paused temporarily. Well, now we're going to get the full opinion on it. So the courts in essence say, give us a minute to sort of look at this. We're gonna give relief to this party, not let you fire this person, or we are going to let this such and so happen. But when we're going to take a full look at this, and then we're going to issue a full opinion later, it just so happens that they kind of dump it on us all at once.
Now, we're waiting several key decisions here, a lot of them centering around President Trump. Let's start with the first one, birthright citizenship. That's one a lot of people are watching.
That's the one I was hoping I'd see the ruling on yesterday.
Exactly is the Supreme Court being asked to decide, and why could this become really one of the most consequential immigration rulings in decades?
Right. This is going to be the massive opinion of this term. And really, the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution says that anybody who is born in the United States and is subject to the jurisdiction thereof is a U.S. citizen. And the argument that the big fight is over the language of the jurisdiction, under the jurisdiction of. And Donald Trump, on his first day in office, signed an executive order limiting birthright citizenship, essentially.
Oh, City, you if you haven't been watching, I mean, I suggest that you go watch, because I go and say my opinion pretty much all the fucking time. You can go ahead and do your own research on that, but definitely disagree with the war in itself from day one, and then let alone the negotiations.
Actually arguing that to be subject of the jurisdiction, that means that your parents have to have a political alliance to the United States. That's a difficult argument to make, and it's one that's drawn a lot of skepticism, candidly, from both the conservative and the liberal justices. But the counter argument is that subject to the jurisdiction is an actual physical, real thing. In other words, if you're in America, take somebody who is here watching.
What's up, Morto? Great to see you in the chat.
The World Cup from somewhere else. If you commit a crime in America, you're going to get prosecuted in America. In other words, you're subject to the jurisdiction just by being on our soil. And the Trump administration's argument is sort of the reverse. There is one opinion from the 1800s where something like this happened, and I won't get into the details, but functionally it decided against what this administration is arguing. They're trying to argue that the original intent of the 14th Amendment was to make sure that the children of freed slaves could be citizens. And they're not necessarily wrong about that part of it. They've got some hurdles to get around, though, with the actual language of the 14th Amendment.
Now, during oral arguments, the justices appeared skeptical.
Yeah, this ruling is going to be because no matter what happens, there's going to be one side of the equation out of the two that are going to say that it's unconstitutional or whatever the case is. They both try to bring these arguments to the table regarding basically anchor babies. Okay, let's just call it what it is. That's what they're trying to get through on the rhetoric side of, Supreme Court.
Of the administration's position on this. But
it's going to be allowed.
Decide to side with the Trump administration, what impacts could Americans really see, and how quickly?
Yes, happy Whip 'em Out Wednesday. And by the way, listen, make sure you guys double tap that screen, hit that like button if you guys are on the vertical side, whatever. We've got over 250 people in here between both of the live streams, so we always appreciate you guys with your engagement.
They see them.
It would be massive, the upheaval in at least the administrative side of this. You're talking about hospitals checking mothers' citizenship and status because they have a responsibility or part of the birth certificate reporting, and you're talking about administrative actions up and down the chains. Now, it is important to note that the administration is asking for prospective relief, not retroactive, meaning that they're not going to go back and declare people who were born in 1970s, 1980s, 1990s. They're not going to go back and declare that those people are not citizens, essentially.
No, I'm sure it would be from the moment it was ruled, it would be for those people going forward. And people that were already now deemed, citizens, they're already citizens.
If you were born in the United States after January the 20th, 2024 or 2025, the day that Trump took office again, from that day forward, you would not be a U.S. citizen, depending on the status of your parents.
Interesting. So it would go to the president's. I would assume that it would go from the day it was ruled. That's when it would be kind of enforced from there on. But he's saying it actually goes back to the beginning of Trump's presidency.
That's one of the arguments and one of the hurdles that the administration has, is that's a bit of a nightmare to sort of, okay, well, now you're asking hospitals to talk about, okay, what is the parents, what's their status here, and are they intending to be here permanently? Are they not intending to be here permanently? Justice Barrett actually asked questions to that effect of the government.
I just don't think it's up to or I don't think that the hospitals should be asking or saying any of that kind of shit, to be honest. I think there should be enforcement that does that, and hospitals are not enforcement.
So to kind of dovetail on what you were saying, there's skepticism, candidly, from everybody on the Supreme Court, well, not everybody, but from both sides of the aisle.
Jeremy, just touching on some of these other decisions we're awaiting here. Another major case involves temporary protected status, also known as TPS. That's for migrants from countries facing war and natural disasters. Now, the administration is arguing TPS was always intended to be temporary. How strong is that legal argument?
Yeah, but the problem is temporary. That shit is such a slippery slope. You know, if we don't give a direct start date and end date to something, expect it to be lapsed. Okay, that's what fucking happens, of course.
Argument, and what is the other side telling the court?
Right. The TPS has to do with, as you were saying, temporary protected status. And so think about it like this. Somebody from a country that is either just the conditions are terrible or they're going to be politically prosecuted. When they come to the United States, let's say they come here and they don't come here lawfully. A lot of times we still protect them, because if they go home, maybe they get put into jail, or maybe they get executed, or something terrible happens. So the United States has traditionally protected a lot of these classes, in particular from Haiti and some other countries in our continent now, or in our hemisphere rather. And so to that extent, they're also the argument is, I think all the justices agree on some level that these are.
I think that it has to do with basically, if you were just born here. I don't think that there was any generations that, I think that's what they're kind of figuring out. I don't think there is a whole thing of generations and all that kind of shit.
That there's no status here for these folks, that they're sort of caught in this limbo. The issue that has been taken up is that administratively, the way that
Oh, I understand your question now that I reread it. Now I totally get what you mean. How do you how I totally get what you're saying. I guess it would have to be at least one generation, right?
Executive broached this with the Supreme Court was what was called a shadow.
But I want to
docket.
hear them say it.
And in a shadow docket, it sort of, the administration gets to cut in line for some of their emergency things that they want to do. And here, what the opposition is saying is, look, government, you don't get to cut in line. There's some administrative acts that you have to show your map. You have to show why you changed your policy decision under some congressional statutes. So that's sort of the fight. It's a super technical fight, but there are over 1 million people who are hitting reload on their computer because it would.
Right. I mean, it would dramatically change their trajectory here in the United States for sure.
Render them without status essentially immediately, meaning that they could be subject to detention or deportation.
Right.
Should the Supreme Court side with the administration. So highly technical. Don't mean to nerd on it too much, but the stakes are very high.
Well, no, and I think you're doing a great job of breaking all of this down.
Absolutely. You be safe out there, Naomi. We always appreciate
really
you.
What we've been watching for
That's
here.
awesome.
And just to bring our viewers this live look outside of the White House, this media stakeout set up there to see if we're going to hear from any members of the administration ahead of tomorrow. So if we do get any comments, we'll bring that to them. But Jeremy, I just want to make sure we touch on all of this. So the justices are also weighing whether President Trump can.
Exactly. That's what I was assuming it would be right there, Mr. Mister. You said it, in everything that I was thinking, but the birthright citizenship arguments is based on legal citizenship status of the parents, which is only one generation. That's exactly right. Currently, illegals can have a baby and they just give the baby citizenship. Right, exactly, which we were calling earlier anchor babies. That's what that is. So that argument, that's exactly right. Like what Steve was saying, how many generations deep does it have to go or any of that? I was only assuming exactly what you said, that it would be the citizenship of the parents.
Move leaders of independent agencies.
Let's say they got legal just a month ago and they're legally, and then they had a baby that, a month later or whatever. Yeah, that baby is now theoretically a U.S. citizen because their parents became U.S. citizens.
The Federal Reserve and the Federal Trade Commission. Why is this issue so important beyond just Washington politics?
Okay, so this issue is very critical, and think of it like this. There's all sorts of federal agencies. The question is how are those agencies created? And Congress has created some, like the Federal Reserve, but a lot of them, like the Department of, for instance, the SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission, or the IRS. Those are things that are under the Department of Justice. Those all have, so for instance, the SEC and the IRS have political appointees. In other words, every 4 years when we get a new president, the president puts a member of their party typically at the head of those agencies, which means that the executive has direct oversight. The Federal Reserve was created by Congress. And the Federal Reserve said, okay, we're going to put this person up there. They're going to be independent.
Interesting. So because it was created by Congress, you know, they're like, hey, we have the right to be able to put in or take out, instead of Trump being the only, you know, being the president, right? Being the only, you know, being able to say who is hired or fired, who's appointed there. I understand their argument on that. And that's going to be an interesting ruling too on this whole thing. We're going to hear some rulings tomorrow. Obviously, we're going to be following all of it. So make sure you guys subscribe and follow for tomorrow morning's show.
Very, very long term, more than just one president. And so that way they're not going to be subject to the winds of political change. The executive here is arguing that they should be able to terminate for cause any of those folks. And so there's a tension there. And what they're essentially arguing is that, look, the president says, look, I'm accountable to the citizens who elected me. But if the economy goes bad, I get blamed for it, even though I have zero control over what the Federal Reserve wants to do. And I also have the ability to terminate somebody for cause under that statute. That was reserved to the executive. So you've got sort of a separation of powers issue there. Now, why this gets real technical important is this, is because a lot of these sort of appointments that were done by Congress, because Congress created these things, if they're sort of subject to termination by the president of the United States, then they do become a little more political, probably than Congress originally intended. So in this instance, I would expect.
Well, I mean, he actually gave a good defense on, you know, that it should actually kind of be reserved for Congress. You know, it was created by them. It was intended by them to, you know, so it's kind of interesting how this is going to play out on that ruling for sure. That one sounds like they really do kind of have an argument.
Whereas I would be really surprised if the administration gets their way on the birthright citizenship. I wouldn't be surprised if the administration gets their way on this issue and the Supreme Court allows him to terminate some of those folks for cause from some of those agencies.
And Jeremy, my last.
Interesting. So he said, don't be surprised though, if Trump gets a favorable ruling on these, on all of it, actually.
Question, really just to summarize all this, looking at these three cases together, birthright citizenship, TPS, presidential firing authority, really the Supreme Court is essentially defining the limits of a presidential power for the future. Is that correct?
No, that's absolutely correct. And really, yes, the common denominator here in every one of these storylines and every one of these cases is executive power and authority. And that's been the case with the Supreme Court really for the last 2, even 3 years, because we wrestled with a lot of executive privileges and authorities, even while Joe Biden was president, the very last term. So whether this trend continues, that's certainly going to be the lead story of the Supreme Court for this era, if you will, is going to be executive authority and sort of exploring the limits and the boundaries of it. One thing that I'll be watching for, which is very, I think, interesting to the legal wonks like me, is that the Supreme Court's not supposed to be political. However, if Donald Trump, if his numbers sort of wane, if he leaks oil, if you will, in the Senate, potentially, that could be an indicator that the Supreme Court might feel a little more at ease disagreeing with him. So so far, Trump has gotten his way a lot of the time, not every time with the U.S. Supreme Court, certainly not on the tariffs. But that'll be sort of interesting to see, is the Supreme Court shifting and are they feeling a little more free to sort of disagree with the administration? That's sort of the game within the game here. But I
absolutely agree with that, Mr. By the way.
Executive authority is the headline here.
All right. And that is actually a very interesting point that you just mentioned there. So thank you for bringing that up.
Interesting. So let's go ahead and get into this next story here. Deadly Chico library shooter was inspired by Columbine, says Bradley Scott Sayer, the 18-year-old who opened fire with a shotgun at a public library in Chico, California, killing 2 and injuring 1 other, was reportedly influenced by the Columbine High School massacre according to local and federal officials. This just coming out right before we started the live stream this morning. So let's go ahead and figure out what the fuck is going on with this.
In the meantime, I do want to get to another big story that we have been following as we continue to gather new information. Take a look at this video coming in after that library shooting, the deadly shooting that took place. This is actually viewer video, as we've learned that the 18-year-old suspect in a shooting at a Northern California library did a walkthrough of that building, then went to his vehicle, got a shotgun, and fatally shot a man at the main door and another inside. That is according to new information provided there by law enforcement. Chico Police Chief Billy Aldridge said gunshots and screams could be heard on a 911 call Monday from the Butte County Library's branch in Chico, which is a city of about 100,000 or so people, about 150 miles northeast of San Francisco. Aldridge said, quote, from the first 911
Northern California
call to having him in custody was less than 4 minutes. Again, you're looking at video from a bus nearby as all of this was playing out. The suspect shot a man at the entrance of the library in the leg, then shot him in the head before firing several other shots inside and shooting another man in the head. That's according to Sid Patel. Who
yes,
is
by the way, real quick, Mr. Mister is correct on this, by the way. The way that the way asylum is your closest, basically your next closest nation that you can go to. It doesn't say like, oh yeah, we can take fucking people from South Korea or North Korea or fucking, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't say those kind of things. It says the very next nation that's safe. And theoretically, that would be exactly what you said. Latin America's and as well as Canadian. That's right.
Agent in charge in the FBI Sacramento office. Patel said, quote, yesterday's violent attack was horrific. The full force of the FBI is assisting that investigation. Authorities identified the man who died as 46-year-old Jacob Hull, who his brother said went by the name of Cody, as well as 74-year-old Robert Johnson. And I want to pop up a look at the suspect here. This is actually coming in from officials. That is the mugshot provided there on the left-hand side of your screen. It says Bradley Scott Sayer, the 18-year-old man who opened fire with a shotgun at a public library in Chico, California, killing 2 people.
This is the first. Now, I think we originally did bring up this story when it was kind of breaking, I think, but we didn't have a picture of the guy. And this is the first time I'm seeing him.
And injuring a juvenile girl was influenced by the 1999 Columbine High School massacre. That is, again, according to local and federal officials. Now, we know that the 7-year-old daughter of Hull's girlfriend, that is one of the victims we said fell during the shooting and was taken to the hospital with an injury that was considered minor. That's according to Hull's brother, who spoke with the Associated Press. Now, that suspect fled out of the back of the library as officers entered in, but additional law enforcement personnel behind the building were able to take that man into custody. Again, all of this information here kind of coming out over the past several hours or so. Officers say they recovered a shotgun from the floor of the library and 2 other guns from the suspect's car. The weapons registered to the suspect's family. Now, we also know that Hull's brother, who is known as Henneberry there, said his brother had just gotten to the library with his girlfriend's daughter and was sitting on a bench just outside when he was hit by that gunfire. He said his girlfriend's daughter is physically okay, but she saw everything. Quote, we're just devastated and shocked, he said, as he explained to the Associated Press, quote, nobody would imagine.
Shit, if you think that I look anything like that, that's fucking crazy.
That this would happen to their own brother, end quote. He described his brother as a very smart, quiet, and low-key man who loved 1990s hip-hop. He was a father figure to his girlfriend's daughter and was supporting them. A video from the scene, as we pop that up once again, coming into the newsroom here, kind of shows that heavy police presence. The response there, it shows police patrol cars surrounding that 1-story brick building, a library.
Now, that's a valid question, by the way, Steve Posey.
And officers pointing their rifles. Now, another video shows a man face down on the ground being handcuffed by a police officer who then picks him up and hands him to another officer.
Dude looks like a lady.
Why are you gay?
Who walks him away from the building. One witness, actually the person who shot this video, says, quote, I see a person in a light-colored shirt running toward the street, toward where the bus was at, and then there was an officer behind him and another officer coming at the side of him, and that is when they tackled him down. Police later determined the suspect acted alone, and they identified him as Bradley Scott Sayer of Chico. Sayer had recently graduated, we're told, from Chico High School. He was booked over into the Butte County Jail on suspicion of 2 counts of murder, and there was no indication that he had any prior relationship with or connection to the victims. We'll keep you updated here as information continues.
Of course, that's what we do as well. We follow everything that we present. We do our best to go ahead and present to you guys and follow them. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, I can't thank each and every single one of you guys enough. Listen, we're going to be back this evening, actually, with the Diamond Effect around 7:10-ish, 7:15, 7:20 p.m. Central Standard Time-ish. Listen, it's going to be a good time. We always have great discussions on that panel. It's going to be a great time. Also, listen, we always do this Monday through Friday anyways. We're going to be back tomorrow morning for more of the world's madness of what we're, presenting here. So I can't thank each and every single one of you guys enough that also engaged with the show. Hit that like button, double tap that screen if you're on the vertical side, donations, all those things, man, it adds up, and I'm very blessed to be able to do this. So, all right, stick around. We're going to be raiding our buddy Black Dragon. He's live right now. Make sure you guys let him know we're coming through with the Mike Ball raid. Anyways, we'll be back this evening. Until then, God bless everyone, and much love, honor, respect.
From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges, a host with a fire burning in his soul, with a heart of steel and a spirit unbroken. He rides on two wheels, ready to claim his throne. Amidst the chaos and the thunderous roar, insane wheels rise as a force to be reckoned with, fueled by the power that only metal can bestow. He takes his stand, refusing to submit. Insane wheels hear his battle cry.